Hello, and welcome to the Student Ministry Conversations podcast with your hosts, Brent Aiken, David Pruitt, and Russell Martin. This podcast is all about equipping, encouraging, and inspiring youth pastors weekly with topics that are brought to the table by youth pastors from all over the world. And now, here's your host for this week, Brent Aiken. Hey, and welcome to the podcast. If this is your first time listening to us, we want to welcome you and invite you over to our website, studentministryconversations.org, where you can find all of our previous episodes, show notes, and blog articles. Our goal is that you're inspired, encouraged, and the things that you hear on this podcast can equip you to be a better student pastor for the church you're serving in. Today, we are sitting down with David Earles. David is the youth pastor at Broadview Baptist Church in Abilene, Texas. And we will be sitting down today to talk about an interesting topic, Jesus, history, and technology, and how all that goes hand in hand. Super excited for y'all to hear this conversation. And without further ado, here's my conversation with David. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Brent Aiken. If you've been listening for a while, hopefully you know who I am, but if not, we wanted to welcome you. Thank you for being a part of listening on this show. Today, I'm sitting down with David Earles. We are both youth pastors in Abilene, Texas. And David has a pretty awesome conversation for us today. But before we do any of that, David, why don't you go ahead and tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, anything you want to share?
All right. Well, it's so good to be here. I've just been enjoying Brent, as he's been my mentor really since I started ministry, and he's kind of been helping me see that, how to handle a lot of the issues that come with youth ministry. To kind of start off, I'll go back a little bit to where I was born, which is Uganda. It's in East Africa, and I came to America when I was 10. I was adopted by a missionary who's actually from Stanford, Texas, which is about an hour from Abilene. She went to ACU, and then God led her into missions. And then it wasn't until 2003 that me and her found each other, and she's been teaching me about Jesus ever since. And I've been falling in love with him and the Word more each year that I've been with her. And this is where it's got me into ministry. And it's not, it wasn't my first choice. That I, went to college for kinesiology, and then I was doing economics at the end of it. so it was a big change, but the thing that stayed the same was that I got to learn where my faith was, and from that, I had a lot of questions that I wanted answered. It took me down a lot of rabbit holes, but at the end of it, I realized that takes faith to believe in who Jesus said he was, and what he did on the cross for us. And it's something that just caught, like Elijah says, his bones were on fire, and he couldn't hold it in. He had to tell somebody, and that's what really took over me. As my interesting background, being from Uganda, being adopted by a missionary, has given me a very unique, different perspective on this whole Christian journey. So, and I'll kind of share my testimony in there, but in college, that was my faith. My mom adopted me when I was in Uganda, and I just grew up in the church bubble. And then coming to Abilene, that's the Bible Belt. So I was really secure. People were telling me what I needed to hear. And then when I go to college, it's the opposite. There's different beliefs, there's different thoughts on where that people go and who deserves to get into where. So that was a really hard thing for me to process at that time. But what happened is the way I acknowledged it was that I just kind of surrendered. I gave up because I was like, there's so many questions. I want everybody to get into heaven. It's just like that sense of justice that, better than God. Like, hey, this person needs to go to heaven too, God. Like, but after doing my research, I gave up. I didn't find all the answers I needed, so I gave up. And I told God, hey, like, you're real, and I know that if you're real, that you'll reveal yourself to me. And that led me to a passage in Job 33 where Job had been asking all these questions just like I had been, and he was going through so much in his life that He had accusers that were telling him, hey, you're doing this. This is why you're in this certain situation. And Paul, or I said Paul, but Job was like, no, actually, I haven't done anything to be in this situation. And it was over reading those passages in Job as a whole that I saw that God came down in that that cloud of thunder, and he was talking to Job and asking him questions. And so he was like, where were you at the foundations of the earth when I was doing all these incredible things? And talks about stretching out the universe and the shapes of things that people wouldn't have known. And so when Job kind of was stunned, and he was like, whoa, like, I can't answer all these, but you're the one that did. You designed this whole world so intricately and so perfectly that it's not up to me to answer all those. So he gave up too. And that was like kind of the same feeling I felt Job had. He just surrendered his intellect, his understanding, all these different things, and he let God be God. And so that was the beginning of my faith, my personal faith. And is that everything wasn't answered, but I had faith that God had the answers if we kept on seeking him and desiring to know him more each day. And that started the ball rolling for me finally jumping into youth ministry, which I've been part of for 7 months now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I would say that even though 7 months has happened,
Yeah.
you are pretty experienced and wise for the 7 months that you've had in. But with that being said, I wanted to stop on one thing you said, and it really stuck out to me. You said, I couldn't find all the answers that made me fit, so I gave up and surrendered. And I think that's one of those things that, like, man, talk about a battle within our culture right now, is we have so many people looking for answers or making answers that make their way work instead of saying, hey, these answers don't work. There's nothing else I can do but surrender. What a fantastic way to say that. That was really, really cool. And I love, I mean, Job is one of my favorite books, just for the sake of we are literally, we can't hold a candle when it comes to the knowledge and the understanding and the wisdom that God has. And there's a quick side note. There's a song that I love by the Ghost Ships, and it's they literally do like Job's response, or like Job's like petitioning to God and God's response in a song. And then at the very end of the song, it says, I spoke of things I do not understand, things too wonderful for me. Although I had no right to ask, my God knelt and answered me. And it's just one of those things, like that state of humility, that state of openness to not being right all the time is a powerful place to be. And so while that could be a fantastic topic in and of itself right there, and we could probably talk for another hour there, that is not your topic today. And I'm super interested on this topic, especially with the history that you have, because you wanted to sit and talk about history of Jesus and technology. And so we wanted to basically talk a little bit about how Jesus and technology have intertwined in the past and what it is going to look like in the future. But go ahead and explain a little bit more of what you mean by your topic.
So, like you were saying, these three things might seem completely different, which they are in themselves, but to understand each one to its full measure, I feel like, doing a little understanding of what history is, the how our cultures were shaped and built throughout time, and then understanding technology and the tools that were used to shape the cultures and the times will help us get a grasp of what Jesus, how we can be Christians in that era. Like, so to an example is like the printing press, or whenever in the Renaissance period, that was a huge thing for Christians, that the Bible could be mass produced and people could even read it in different languages. And so it was the traditional was to have a priest be able to read whatever was in front of them, even way past that, when the Pharisees and the scribes, they were the ones with the education and the knowledge of the scripture. So they were the ones reading it, and it became more of a oral tradition that was passed down. But now when you look at the printing press and you see that they have the tools, the technology, that was a sort of technology at the time that was people were unfamiliar with, but it opened the gate for the gospel to spread like wildfire, even though, yes, it was spreading already. But this allowed people to spread quicker and further, and then also to deepen the understanding of that individual Christian. So they didn't have to now wait till Sunday to hear what James 4 said, or what was in Matthew, and how those related to each other. They could actually go and do their own personal study because they had the word in front of them. And so I believe that so that's history, that's Renaissance time in history, the technology being the printing press, and then the whole reason for it to be useful and purpose of it is to spread the kingdom, to bring the world to the knowledge of who Christ is. And so that's why I wanted to bring this topic up and those three things, because if we can find that connection throughout time, how these three things have been linked together, we can see how these things will stay linked together in the future. And one of the things I really want to emphasize, especially for the youth, is the fear that is being pushed there's a lot of fear about AI because it's unknown, and it's something that's we can't see what's behind the machine, really. And that's the scary part, is that we can't see, like, yes, there's algorithms, there's different mechanics going on, and then it'll pop out a result. And so people are fearful of, like, what is it thinking? How much can it think? What is it going to do once it can think for itself? All these different fears. And I believe if we can understand what history, the technology itself, and then Jesus, that's obviously the cornerstone that puts those things together, then we can have a peace of mind to where, as a Christian, as believers, how we can use these tools, and then also why we shouldn't worry about if it does go out of control, or if there's things that we don't understand about it later on.
Man, I don't know. I've seen iRobot one too many times.
Yeah, I know, man.
But no, I definitely think it's an interesting topic. And one of the things that I mean, like you said, it's the history of technology. I'm sure that there are people that back in the Renaissance, when the printing press was made, with any technological advancement, there's always been people for it, and there's always been people against it.
Yep.
And so it almost takes a time of navigation and a time of discussion. And then there's always the early adopters, and then there's always the late bloomers. And so I think that goes across the board, though, and how I think the main purpose and the main use of technology across time has always been, you can use it for good or you can use it for evil.
Exactly.
And the thing, same premise with a lot of people are like, well, money's evil. It's like, no, money's a fantastic thing. But the use of it can be good, or the use of it can be evil. And so how do we take the knowledge of history that we have with technology and the advancements of the kingdom and the advancements of church and everything else? How do we take that and walk into the future of technology with the correct and positive mindset?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, like you said, literally, a lot of people will quote the Bible saying, money is the root of all evil. And that's even been a tagline in the secular world, like, money is the root of all evil. But the truth is, it says that the love of money, right? It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. And that's really pretty much for everything. The love of anything can lead to evil, because we've idolized, we put it, it's an idolatry to us, and we put it above God. And so that's can be the root of all evil, and that could be anything. So, but the first step to really having the peace of mind and advancing into this new age in the technology and how AI will improve the overall well-being of humanity, is to study it and to understand what it actually is doing, the different things going on, and then the number one thing is the safety behind it all. Because even though I am a advocate for AI, and I believe that it can be used for good, I do understand the importance of the safety concerns for it. And over the past few months, it's been like a tsunami that's been coming over our whole understanding of economics, healthcare, even literature. You know, these chatbots are able to produce like really well written essays for colleges, and act as professors. So it's a really hard thing for people to grasp because it's coming so quick. Nobody was ready for it, but the people that were, right, the people that had been kind of saying this for the past 5-10 years, are prepared, and they're the ones at the front of the line trying to make sure it is safe, and that there's regulatory measures put on them. So just as they are doing, I believe as Christians, we should be at the front of the security, the safety, the privacy, all these different things that would give us that peace of mind. But we shouldn't overlook the effectiveness it can have on how we do our Bible studies, or the questions we even ask in these chatbots, or these different AI systems that should be able to help us improve our understanding of what the word is and how to connect it all. I don't see any difference from it being like a Google. Like when people do Google searches all the time about different types of scripture, different types of articles, and different people, and it helps us get a better view or a bigger picture of what's going on in the world. And so that's the same thing with AI. It's just going to be a little higher level, but same thing with like the internet. Then we need to have security. If we just have anybody be able to like hack into your computer, no matter what it can do, then it's not going to be any use because somebody else is seeing your information, manipulating your information. So if we can get that safety down for AI, and all the, make sure it's being regulated by the government, and there's like, the best quality systems, technology in place to basically keep away the people that would want to do harm to the system itself and manipulate it, the code and all these different things that make it what it is. If we can keep those people away and have it in trusted people's hands, then on the other side of that is just really cool ways that we can immerse and engage the audience and bring the gospel to different people in the world.
No, I think is super important, and I definitely think that there has to be some kind of checks and balances when we get into this age. But how does the church specifically go about? I guess there's a few questions I can ask here.
Yeah.
First off, we've talked a little bit about how the role of technology has spread Christianity, with the Bible being translated and mass produced and all that fun stuff. And that single-handedly is probably one of the biggest advancements technologically in Christianity. But then we jump into the world of, hey, we got to where like phones were a thing. And so like, phones were a huge technological advancement, even for ministry's sake, because the ability to communicate and connect with each other got greater. Then we had text messaging, then we had social media. And now a lot of people look at social media, looking back 20-ish years ago, it was like, oh, hey, like social media is the devil, don't get on it, kind of thing like that. And now it's like, hey, our church is on Facebook. We have online campus pastors. We have all these different things. And now we see the beauty of how it can be used efficiently for the church. And obviously the next step of technology, as we've been talking, is AI. how do you see the church using AI in a beneficial structure
Mhm.
for ministry advancement?
Yeah. So yeah, that's gonna be the fun part is figuring out how it's going to increase our engagement. And the truth is that we have we can't even scratch the surface right now on what it'll be able to do for the church as a whole, because AI is still not very well known. Like that's the scary part and the exciting part of it. It's that there's not. It's like what is it? What is the limit to it? What is it? What would it be able to do? So one of the things in church, though, I think it would be able to do is like, as a youth pastor, I'm spending a lot of time doing a lot of research, doing a lot of preparing, and then trying to make my presentations engaging and simple and understanding. And so one of those things I feel like it's going to cut a lot of that time out of doing, we'll still do the research, and maybe it won't be that our research time is cut, but maybe how the depth of our research is deepened because of the answers it's giving us. If you go to chat GPT and you're able to ask it a summary of a theological book, and then you might not have time to read it in that week or 2 weeks that you were preparing for this sermon, but you're able to kind of go through it, get the summary of it, and then you have that pocket of information. And then so research is going to be cut in half, and then the engagement part is that it's scary because youth pastors and pastors are usually doing a lot of 5 different things to try to get it together. Well, now you're going to be able to have an assistant, an AI assistant, that will be able to kind of do a lot of the presentations, do a template layout, a lot like Canva already does. That's helped me out a lot. But in the grand scale of things, it's going to be able to give us accurate, precise, and then we can go over it and be like, man, this is something I would have done, or this is something that a real human being would have done. And once you can't distinguish those things, you can kind of go in there, edit it a little bit more, and then mass produce it. And what we want, though, is as a church is to for each individual to kind of have the same process, kind of have the same ability to go to their computer, ask this chatbot any questions, and then have the person be confident that this is given accurate theological statements and doctrine, instead of like trying to appease to the whole all the religions in the world and saying it's not my opinion if this happens. But if we can get the church to understand how to communicate with these chatbots, ask it the right questions, and it'll be able to kind of help grow their knowledge in the Bible. One thing I was doing is I was trying out one of the chatbots, and I was asking it like the different religions, what they are, and then they'll give me like Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, and then I would ask it information on each section about each religion, and they'll be able to pop out really fast answers, and I can ask it, hey, elaborate on that a little bit more, and it'll go into deeper analysis of those religions. But it's not, and then I would say, okay, let's go to Christianity. How does Christianity compare to these religions? Or what's the similarities and differences? And then you just go and, you could Google this before, and then there'll be like 10 different articles with 10 different things. And, some articles you wouldn't trust, some you would. But now you have this chatbot that kind of gives you pretty good answers that you would have taken 5 hours to find, and given them right there and then. So now you have a chance to dive in deeper on different topics like that. And it's not that it's giving you an opinion, it's giving you facts about whatever you're asking. But it's important for you to know, to be rooted in the Bible well enough to know, like, okay, it just said that Paul was the one that denied Jesus 3 times, but the Bible says it was Peter. So knowing that information, you'd be able to kind of discern, okay, this AI still has a lot of work to do. But if you understand the scripture and the thing is that a lot of Christians and pastors have been testing this out and have even been shocked about how accurate these things are, even from the flow of if they said, "Hey, write me a sermon on the Sermon on the Mount," and it's going to be able to produce a well-written, almost somebody that just came out of seminar had just written it, and it would be satisfactory for the pastor to go up and preach it. And then people would say, well, we can't just have AI replacing our sermons, which is correct. I just think it'll be able to force the pastors, if that's their mode of working, to force them to give it a sermon something new, dive in deeper to a certain subject. Now that the AI could do this, why can't you go further? Why can't you dive in deeper and because people can now just go in and type in however they feel. Hey, I'm feeling like this. Give me a sermon on how, the Bible can make me feel better. They can do that. So as pastors, youth pastors, everybody's going to have to really sit down with this and realize, okay, I know we're not going to be taken out of a job because there's something special about humans speaking the word, right? So what is it that I'm going to have to do to kind of improve and give it something different than what the AI chatbot is doing? And obviously, I don't think that should take away from prayer. Like, this is something you pray about, and not try to keep it traditional and force it away. Like, this isn't, like you were saying earlier, like, oh, the AI is evil, we can't touch it. But because then if you do that, then you're at risk for just being left behind by society. And it's not that society is driving this, it's that we need to be ahead of this so we can be so the Christian values could be the ones that lead this next frontier. But if we allow the world to dictate where AI takes us, then we're going to be the ones that are kind of following behind. And then we would have a good reason to be scared, because all the input, all the information being poured into this AI system and the data being poured into it is going to be anti-Christian. It's going to be, or it's not going to be accurate Christianity. And it's always going to be something that might lead us astray. But if we can be grounded in the Bible, we can be grounded in the values and morality and ethics of what a Christian is. And instead of being afraid, we jump ahead of this, and then we can have more of a say-so in how AI is developed.
Sure. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I would definitely say that there's a lot of people that would probably play devil's advocate of, like, if you use chat GPT, then, like, that is completely cutting out the inaccessory ability of the spirit, because you're not allowing the spirit to lead you. And I don't think in any way you're saying, hey, like, for your lesson on Wednesday, I'm going to go talk about evangelism. Wednesday at like an hour before the service, I'm going to get on Chat GPT, write me a sermon about evangelism. That's not what you're saying at all. But at the same time, what a remarkable advancement in technology, because especially old school pastors, you go into a pastor's study and they have walls of books of commentary and books and everything like that. But what if you had the ability to access all of those commentaries, all of the information that is in 1,000 different books that are on your bookshelf in a matter of seconds, where you could just say, hey, I need some biblical commentary regarding Joshua 5. Or whatever, and it is able to construct that and put it in front of you in a matter of seconds. It's not necessarily a, like, let Chat GPT do it for you. It's allow technology to help you do ministry better and do ministry more efficiently. And a lot of people are like, well, no, I'd rather get my hands dirty, I'd rather do all this and stuff like that. Yes, I to an extent I agree, but at the same time, I'm also a firm believer that a pastor shouldn't be behind his desk. And so the less time that we have to spend preparing, the less time that we have to spend working on our lesson, what might have taken us 4 hours, if we can shrink that to 2 hours and still have just as a spirit guided and quality sermon, in a matter of 2 hours, then man, I mean, we are absolutely going to do, we're going to have more time to do other things, whether that be with your family, whether that be speaking to other people, whether that be being an active participant in staff conversation and staff unity, challenging your staff to do more, to do better, be more efficient in what they do, all that stuff. I mean, I don't think anybody will argue that freeing up time isn't a good thing, because it allows you to use that time for other things. And I know a lot of pastors that will write their sermons at home to get away from the church, because at the church, it's really, really hard to sit down and do a sermon, because there's people coming into your office, there's phone calls, there's people, just everything. And so if I take my sermon home and I spend 6 hours at home writing a sermon that I could finish in 2 with the help of technology, that opens up 4 hours of family time. That opens up 4 hours of me being able to do something else that is still beneficial, that is still an opportunity for either relationship building or family enrichment or whatever. There's just opportunities there. And I think looking at the advancements in technology and saying, oh, hey, this is a bad thing, we shouldn't touch this, as you said, I think that's negligence. We need to be out on the forefront of this and saying, hey, how can we make this work? How can we use this to benefit not only our congregations, but our communities, the people that we come in contact with on a regular basis. I think it's super important. And I'm not going to lie. When we started this conversation, I literally pulled up ChatGPT on another screen and I said, hey, I need questions for a podcast about history of technology in the church. And I used 2 or 3 of the questions for this podcast. But it's just one of those things, like, why not try? I do think that there needs to be some discernment. I do think that there needs to be some boundaries. I do think there needs to be some spiritual mentor conversations in this, because I think it is something that, like you said, it can be a rabbit hole where you jump down really, really quickly and you're like, oh, this is amazing. And if you don't have anybody to say, hey, whoa, like you're sinking. Then
like you ever been on YouTube, man? People
100%.
get on there and it's kind of, it has all this information, like anything you ever want. But if you don't filter it, like you're saying,
without a doubt.
That's good.
And that's, I mean, it's super important, because when you get into those things, and this is honestly more of a conversation point for this topic than just doing another episode, and it's technology in general, whether you're using social media right now or whether you're looking into AI. If you don't have the core group of discernment players in your life, where you don't have people that are readily speaking wisdom and discernment into your decision making and your upbringing, then you need to get that now. Because I guess the potential scary thing of technology is that you're also coming into a world where it's easier and easier just to find an answer on your own. And not worry about the counsel of other people. And so, I mean, there's scripture time and time again, a wise person seeks counsel, a fool speaks immediately. And so we need to really, really be careful. And more than anything, we have to set up ourselves and we have to teach our students to embrace the counsel of people when stepping into these new endeavors, because sometimes they might be fantastic. I mean, gosh, for instance, I mean, there's so many different like technological advancements that you can look at just within the church that are like, I'm sure someone spoke out and said, man, this is a bad idea, don't do it. But then other people are like, no, hey, we're going to do this, but I want you to tread lightly and be careful. And like now there's the Bible app, for instance, like I'm sure that someone was like, no, we don't need to put the Bible on a phone, like
keep it in the hands.
Exactly. But like widespread access, I there was something the other day that the Bible app is on like more than 20 million devices or 200 million devices or something like that. I mean, it was mind blowing, but it's like, I guarantee you some of those probably didn't have a Bible at home.
Yeah.
And so just the technological advancement and like ability of that. But I'm sure when like Life Church was making the Bible app, I'm sure that there were people that were like, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
like, or
Yeah.
like, hey, this could go really, really bad. But this, I see the benefit of this too. Let's tread
Mm-hmm.
carefully, kind of thing.
Yeah. That's big.
Yeah,
That's big.
but like what an advancement. So I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
if we look at Chat GPT or AI or anything like that, to that regard, is like, how can we globally enhance the ministerial ability of pastors across the world? Like, I mean, shoot, that's huge.
Yeah, and that's exciting. That's the exciting future we have to look forward to. Just like Zoom, right? Like whenever the pandemic hit, those churches that had been willing to, try out Zoom, maybe they might not have had forced online service, but they were making sure they do it here and there throughout the week for people that might have not had access to it. But people that were willing to allow this Zoom technology to come in when the pandemic hit, they were the ones ready, and they were the ones that probably saw the least amount of decline in their church
Yeah.
because they were able to jump on this new thing and get moving with it, see the benefits of it. And even still after COVID is gone, they're still using this tool. And so
Yeah.
imagine if COVID never happened, a lot of churches would have been missing out on something like this.
Sure.
So that's something that comes along though, like sometimes our hands are forced. But I think it's all like just part of discernment. One story actually I wanted to bring up was like Elijah, and this new technology is bringing this one thing I want to talk about, but this new technology is going to bring in some really hard questions, some very complex questions. This is one reason I want us to get ahead of this, because there's going to be a lot of questions that are coming up that only Christians have the answer to. Like consciousness, what is like what makes a person, right? And I believe that Christians have a solid answer for that. We have a soul. God breathed into Adam, and so that there's something that separates us from the animals themselves. They're biological, just like us. So what's different from animals and us is that we have that soul. And if we look at robots, it's man creating itself, a man in its image, right? So we're giving, especially if you're a non-believer, this is really dangerous for non-believers. So the things I'm talking about, it's like for non-believers that are building this. So they don't believe in anything. They don't believe that there's life after death. They believe that you can extend life. Why not live till 200 if technology allows it? And so, and then why not copy our brains, like the data in our brains, because it's basically the same thing. And why not just transfer it to another body, a robot body that can live for however long it is. And then why not, genetically modify this and that, so these things are going to, like, especially in the healthcare business, these things are going to be so easy for people to be able to do. And one example is there's this guy he invented AlphaGo, which is the AI that beat a player in Go, right? And it's just like chess, a little bit more complicated than chess. But there's an AI that beat a chess player, and everybody went crazy. And there's an AI that beat AlphaGo, which was really crazy. And then now that same company that created those AIs has created an AlphaFold, which goes into the healthcare business, into biology, and helps the engineers there kind of take what takes about 5 years to do, which is to kind of map out a protein, the shape of protein, all these medical terms that are involved into it. But this is a really big step that helps people make vaccines, test the vaccines, and then, but this time to test those vaccines and approve it, make sure it's safe, all that took about 5 years. And then, but this company, and has already been recognized, it's being used by professionals all around the world. but it's able to do it in like a matter of minutes. So they're able to do what took 5 years in a matter of minutes. And it's not just like, oh, it can pop out a faster answer. No, this is something that is going to help, create vaccines for a lot of people in a short amount of time. It'll help patients be diagnosed, and instead of having to wait weeks, which is the vital parts for somebody that might have cancer, this would be something that cuts that time in months. So now they're just waiting a few hours, if not just a few minutes, to get that answer. And that's huge for the advancement of technology. But if you are somebody who's unbelieving and you see people that weren't able to see now because of technology, people that weren't able to hear now can hear. Now, all these different, now you can live longer. So the question comes up, what's the point of God? What's the point of Christianity if it's always talking about heaven is going to be this final destination where we received all the healings and, no more tears. But now you're saying AI could really kind of reprogram the humanity, the humans, to not experience a lot of those same things, the pain and suffering that makes us human. So this brings up philosophy and morality and all these ethical questions. So that's why, even though we're on the edge of this abundance of anything we want at any time, we can live longer, we have better health. So how's God going to be involved in this? How's the scripture, how's he going to be held up when a lot of the miracles Jesus were doing could be replicated by AI in the future? But
Yeah.
the word says that these signs aren't. It's going to be signs like this. There's going to. So we have to know, like, the false prophet and the beast and all. I don't want to get into too much revelation on that, but all these things, they were producing the same kind of results, like the kind of fire from the sky, signs of wonders, right? And that kind of looked like what Jesus is doing, but isn't. And being able to know that information, to be like, there's a lot more than just the signs and wonders, right? There's something deeper that we have to wrestle with as humans. And the foundation of it is that when Adam and Eve sinned, that sin didn't just stop there, but it affected all their descendants after.
Yeah.
It's something that's affecting us till today. And there's something that when we build these AI systems, that they're not going to be made in the perfect image of God, and that they're going to be biases and corruption and manipulation that are built into it, because things that are built in them are this very corrupt and fallen creatures, right? So the whole point of that is that it's a interesting time, because a lot of these things that were mythical in the old times are going to kind of start becoming real. And how are the youth, especially, how are they going to be able to handle those kinds of conversations in the future with the future atheists, who is a worshiper of the AI God, who gives him everything that he wants and needs whenever he wants it? So what makes that AI God different from the God we serve? And the earlier we can have these conversations, the more we can bring them up, not be fearful of them, the better we can prepare our youth and even adults who don't know too much about AI to be able to answer those questions and be confident that this has not deviated from God's plan or overall purpose in the Christian life. This is something he knew would come. He said, like Solomon, who was full of wisdom, he was the wisest man to ever live. People were coming, like the Queen of Sheba came to him seeking wisdom, and then Jesus says that this rejoice, because it's greater wisdom, right, that has come, greater wisdom than Solomon, greater wisdom than the Queen of the South, and all these things. There's something different. There's something that the AI will never be able to do. There's something missing from it. Just like the smartest person that's an atheist, there's something he can't grasp about the Bible that somebody that has zero education can grasp. So technology, all it is increasing that gap of our brains, which is super intelligent, can put all information together, can spit out different things out of it. But there's a difference between that, because if you think that that's where a lot of people fall short, is that the smarter you are, right, the more advanced we become, the less we need God. The more advanced smarter somebody is, the more they realize, oh, God is just a fairy tale or a myth. So that's the misconception. Or the more advanced society becomes, the more they realize that they don't need God. That's a lot of reason people leave Christianity, because they're like, oh, I'm too smart for this. This is Santa Claus, right?
Yeah.
But understanding like the advancement is going to just expose how futile and how foolish the wisdom of this world is, and that this computer will be able to spit out all that we needed to spit out, like gardening, like the Bible. It'll give us all. It can read the whole Bible and cross-reference it, but it doesn't understand it. It can't grasp what Jesus. It'll tell us, yeah, Jesus died on the cross for the atonement of our sins, and now that we could be made right before God and have a relationship with Him. But he can. The robot's just saying that because the Bible says that, first of all. That's why it's saying it, and then or somebody wrote about it, but it's not an experience that a robot, no matter how advanced in the future it will be, because a lot of people are worried about, oh, what if it's conscious? What if it's self-aware? What if it's, what if it knows different things? But the thing is, like, it can't. That's why it has. It's a lot of parts and a lot of data in the system that's producing it. And no matter how advanced we'll get, right, we'll never get to that point. And no matter how convincing it might seem, because that's the only difference that will happen, is that AI will be so advanced that it'll be like me talking to you and you won't be able to tell, because it was built into a certain personality, certain set of rules and output and results. And then a regular human will talk to it like, oh, I didn't know you were a robot. Like, that's coming up in the future. But and then a lot of people will be on the AI side advocating for the AI rights, because they have been convinced that this thing is like legit real. And so that's
that almost sounds like prophecy.
hey, I'm just telling you, it's crazy, but it's nothing that we as Christians should be fearful of, because it says greater is He that's in us than those that are in the world. No matter that doesn't, some people, that was true in 100 AD when they had no type of technology that could, or Google or anything or airplanes that could fly you across the world. But it's still going to be true 100 years from now too, if Jesus hasn't come back, where we can still be rooted and be confident in the hope that we have. So
well, I think we have time for one more question, and so I want to end with a practical one. With this being AI and being a student ministry podcast and stuff like that, what do you hope to see AI advance in student ministry?
Yeah, so that's a big part. Like, the whole reason, there's a special place for the youth in this whole process, especially in this time, and that they are in 10 years are going to be about my age, 25. A lot of them are going to be either entering into the workforce, all these different things that begin about 10 years. But at the same time, the world that we know today is not going to be at all like it is going to be in 10 years. So preparing them for this with knowledge about this, this artificial intelligence and what it's going to do, what kind of jobs will be able to improve, or actually what kind of jobs aren't even going to be around in 10 years. So now they're going to be, so now you're not only, you're helping them spiritually, but you also want to, want to be like the prudent manager. Like, it says that, we might know God, but we don't usually put these things into practice, or we're fearful to put these things into practice. So I am praying and hope and know that this generation of youth that we're ministering to are going to be well knowledge pretty knowledgeable about AI and the consequences and the benefits that it's going to have, and how they can apply it to their personal spiritual growth, and be able to ask it hard questions without having to be afraid that it's going to give it something that doesn't want to hear, or that they don't want to hear, and then be able to mass produce the availability and accessibility of these apps that they can engage in on a daily basis, that can help them do just like you were doing, like you're doing a Bible app where people can come in and read the Bible and then stay engaged with you and everybody else, the other 20 other people that are in there. So same thing with AI. It's just going to be a app, like there's going to be like an app that makes it just really easy to do Bible studies, to stay engaged, to stay interested into topics, to gather your friends together, and to have a personal kind of Bible plan for each other that's very suited for really well suited for what the individual is going through, and then also having the confidence that it's not really diluting what the Bible is doing in our lives already. It's just like the Bible app that you can open up and be able to jump through different sections of the Bible to reference and to help you get a full picture of what God is doing. And so my like back to what I was saying, like my hope for the youth is that they take advantage of this and they're not afraid to go ahead of this and to learn more about this, and to know that God is able to use these things, because he wants us to increase in knowledge. He wants us to increase in wisdom and understanding. And the fact is that this AI won't be able to replace that experience away from Christians, no matter how advanced it gets. It only makes it easier for us to just get, instead of, like we were saying, we'd spend hours and hours trying to get this information. Some people give up in that process, but if we can get it like that, it doesn't stop us from, oh, okay, I get it now. I fully understand. No, God is so deep. Isn't that, way deeper than AI will ever be able to get, way wider than AI would ever be able to get, and then the heights, right? So being able to be fully confident that when you ask it, it'll give you an answer that just leads you to more questions, that leads you to a deeper relationship with God. And that's the key to this whole thing, is how do we use these AI systems to help us deepen our relationship with God and to help us see what's already in us. It's not creating anything new, but it's revealing something that's already been given to us by God himself.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And I think that's an exciting question for the future of what is this going to be? What is going to take place? How is this going to 20 years from now be something we look back at and be like, man, can you imagine, like, can you remember when we thought this was going to be a bad thing? Kind of thing like that, as everybody has. I mean, we just have to keep looking for opportunities to advance and enhance the kingdom on earth. And we can do that through technology, just as we can do it through relationships and everything else. And so what a great conversation. Lastly, do you have any resources that you might have looked into that had a little more information on this topic, or anything like that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I really I recommend one podcast, and it's by the name of Lex Friedman. And so Lex Friedman, it's not like a religious podcast, but it's probably the best AI podcast it's not just AI, but technology overall in the future and all these different things. He does a really good job. He interviews like the CEOs of Open Mind, which is the people that are actually running these AI systems. He has like a personal conversation with these people one-on-one, and it helps you see where that person is. That person that created this chatbot know what it really is going to be about. What information can we take from him on how he's building it, and then he whoever did build it, he knows what it might hold in the future. So he just does it. Lex Friedman does a really good job asking great questions to his hosts, and it's a variety of different people in the technology industry. And so check out Lex Friedman. He's interviewed Elon Musk. He interviewed Sam, who is the guy that started the OpenAI. He's interviewed so many different other people that have their hands in the AI industry, and
Yeah.
they're the frontiers of it. And then another place I would go is Coursera, which is a learning website, Coursera, and it helps. And I actually did this for a little bit and got my certification in machine learning, because I was just trying to learn. I wanted to do computer science a little bit, and that's something I was diving into. But it's like $50. Like you could take $50 and then they'll give you hundreds of information about and courses about technology, how it works, all these little different programming classes that you can take. And this isn't just like, oh, it's a junior college somewhere. No, these are actually Stanford professors. The guy's name is Andrew Ng, and he's super cool, he's simple, he's very easy to understand when he's explaining these very complex topics. And that's really been helpful in kind of seeing this AI thing, instead of, some people think it's like super alien, but it's really just numbers, zeros and ones are being plugged in a sort of algorithm that gives you something else. And so if you can understand how all those things work, then it not only will help you see and understand it, but you can participate in the kind of applications that you can create. If you want to create a website, that's possible. And then all these different things. And so those are the two. And then the last one would be another podcast, a YouTube channel called Unbelievable. And it's a lot of Christian mathematicians, Christian philosophers, Christian scientists, and they just have conversations with each other, debates sometimes, Q&As here and there, and they just talk about the future, and they talk about philosophy and the meaning of life, but it's Christian based. And the guy who hosts it is not afraid to bring in opposing beliefs. And so he has two different people, that one's a believer and one's a non-believer, and you just hear both sides. And it's really good to know where an unbeliever's head is at when they're having these kinds of topics. And so just diving into those things is really important. Lex Friedman podcast, really good for just overall technology and everything. And then the Unbelievable podcast, which is Christian based and helps you kind of navigate through the different trends that are coming into the world from a Christian lens. And then the Coursera, which gets you the practical knowledge, and you actually can put your hands in there and see how these programs that are coming into the world work from the ground up. So
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a few more that I'd like to throw into that. And
Mm-hmm.
just real quick, while you're listening to this, you can go to our website and view this particular episode on our website. And in the show notes, we provide links to all of these to where you can go and visit all these sites and look at all these resources yourself. So all of those are available on our website in the show notes for this episode. You can go to studentministryconversations.org, and this one should be on there where you can search. You can search episode 103, or you can type in the topic and it will pop up. But then the other ones that I'd like to throw, there are 3 books that are really important, especially when we talk about ministry to students or ministry to families, which is a big part of who we are. There is a book by Andy Crouch that is The Tech Wise Family: Everyday Steps for Putting Technology in Its Proper Place, which talks about technology in the house, technology with family, and using technology in healthy and balanced ways. A absolute must read for anybody in ministry is Communicating for a Change, 7 Keys to Irresistible Communication by Andy Stanley. It's not necessarily focused on technology, but this book provides insights on how technology can be used to enhance communication and ministry. And then finally, there's a book by Justin Wise called The Social Church, A Theology of Digital Communication. And this book explores technology and social media and how it can be used in effective ways to connect churches with their congregations and their communities. And then there's 2 websites that I use pretty often as well. It's Church Tech Today, and they offer articles and resources on how churches can effectively use technology in ministries. And then there's access.org, and access.org is more of a family website, but it talks about what students are currently doing with technology, what the current trends are, how to properly navigate and manage these technological trends as they arise. And I'm sure as AI continues to develop, Access will be on the forefront of that conversation about how to allow that and how to use that and manage it properly in your home. So all great resources. Man, what an interesting episode. What a fun episode as far as a conversation. And I guess my last question for you is, how can people connect with you, whether that be social media or email or anything else? How can people reach out?
So you can definitely reach out by email if you ever need anything. It's at david.earles, EARLES, at broadview.church, or you can shoot me a text anytime at 325-518-1490. And so a lot of the time, if you want to get with me on my Instagram is also open. I like to post a lot of some of the trending topics, scripture topics here and there, but you can follow me at David_Earles, EARLES. And but yeah, those are the 3 kind of platforms that I use most. And so if you want to reach out, please do. I would love to continue these conversations. I'm a big fan of where the future is going to, take us, especially in ministry, and trying to help our youth prepare for that.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And just in the fashion of this episode, ChatGPT wrote the closing. So I'm going to read it and we'll go from there. But thank you for joining us on the Student Ministry Conversations podcast. We hope that you have gained valuable insights and practical tools for your ministry and students. Our goal is to continue to provide resources and conversations that inspire and equip you to effectively disciple the next generation. We look forward to having you join us for future episodes as we explore the many facets of student ministry together. And until next time, keep investing in the lives of your students and empowering them to be lifelong followers of Christ.
Amen.
Love you guys. Hope you have a great week, and we hope to see you next week.
All right. Thank y'all.